Hey, y'all, each week on The Sam Sanders Show from KCRW, we ask big questions and share hot takes about the pop culture we love.
Now that we have YouTube, we don't need any more biopics. If they've been alive such that I can watch them on YouTube, I don't need it.
I don't think that music is getting worse. I think y'all just don't listen to artists who aren't in the mainstream.
Taylor Swift, retire. It's time to retire.
The Sam Sanders Show from KCRW, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube.
Every single ounce of our being is supposed to be lived through, not confined and contorted the way that they want you to go back in the closet. If you can overcome that, you can overcome anything.
This is Life in 7 Songs from the San Francisco Standard, and I'm Sophie Behrman. This week, I'm speaking with actor, singer, drag queen, the icon Peppermint, who broke barriers as the first openly trans woman to compete in Season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race. After she sashayed her way into second place, she then went on to become the first openly trans woman to originate a main role on Broadway in the 2018 musical Head Over Heels. You can see her in shows like The Traitors and Survival of the Thickest. As a recording artist, she's released 2 studio albums, 5 EPs, and a documentary about her life premiered this month. It's called A Deeper Love. When we met over video, she was brushing powder on her face, applying mascara. Her hair was literally flowing. Is that a fan blowing on you?
No, it's just my natural hair. It moves. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be so funny?
That would be amazing.
It's not true.
So you've become this icon, fighting for trans rights. I can't imagine you saw yourself much in the media as a kid.
You're right. I didn't get a lot of role models that would have led me to the conclusion that I'd have a life that looks and feels the way that it does. But the people that I gravitated towards were naturally entertainers and people that were public. I'd say after trying to figure out is it like Richard Simmons for a while, which it was not. That was the closest.
This is the fitness personality with the short shorts and
the short shorts and the curly hair. Oh my God, let's go. And while that is definitely me, it also wasn't. Snagglepuss was oddly this sort of dandy, queer adjacent, didn't want to break a nail cat.
I actually had to look up Snagglepuss, but it's this pink puma cat thing, right?
Yeah, it's the gay Pink Panther who really talks with a lisp and, tries to fight, but cannot fight, darling. Never ends up actually fighting. And so then I was let me keep looking. And so Prince is who I basically settled on, is someone who broke all gender norms, was very flamboyant, wore heels. Prince is I like to say, my sort of queer icon.
You actually chose the song Prince's 7. This song came out in 1992. You would have been 12 or so in middle school. What impact did this song have on you?
I mean, it had an enormous impact, and it was a part of his Love Symbol album, which was a symbol that's not pronounceable. It was a combination of the male and female sex symbol sign. And I was really drawn to that because it was a combination of those two things, which was both male and female, masculine, feminine energies. I was in this wearing all black, which I still do, and wearing crystals, which I still do, phase. Not much has changed. Some might say kind of woo-woo, but I wasn't really. It was, spiritual. I was searching for something other than the basic.
Yeah.
And Prince was definitely in that vibe. He always has been, but he had sort of made a vibe switch during that time with his album. And suddenly it was so much more spiritual. And he was introducing a lot of eclectic sounds. But the music video, it was beautiful and sort of false. It was daylight, but obviously in a studio, and all things that I am is looks natural, but very fake. All 7 and we'll watch them fall. We'll stand in the way of love and we will smoke them all. With an intellect and a savoir-faire. One in the whole of you. There's sound effects in it, right? There's and whoosh. And you're now You are mine and together we'll love through all space and time. I love it. The memory that I have is of a deep crush that I had with a boy who was the straight heartthrob of the motherfucking school. He was who all the girls were after. And he and I were close. And I think I just was like his queer friend. But in this moment, I invited him over after school. My mom was at work at her like one of 12 jobs, which is like, welcome to America. He came over for 2 days in a row. And that first day we sat and listened to this song and we ended up like wrestling and like getting very close. It was like very erotic. We almost kissed. And that might as well have been taking my virginity because I felt like all the butterflies and the heart beating and the sweats and the vapors. And so the song is special to me for that reason as well.
Peppermint, were you out in middle school?
I was. I came out a few times as liking boys first when I was 11 or 12, and then as trans later. But I was very queer the entire time.
I read that you came out as trans in 2012. Is that right?
Honestly, no.
No?
Yes and no. I almost feel like I came out as some kind of alien when I was in second grade. The first person I came out to was a friend. His name is Gavin Downs. He was an exchange student from Ireland. And so he just didn't have like the normal American thing going on. He had this like, I'm not from here thing. Kind of the same thing as like, I had this like, I'm not from here thing. And I very much was like leaning into, I could be an alien. But that's not true. Trans folks and queer folks are not alien, although we are sometimes ostracized as such. But I definitely had the air of I'm different. And I ended up, the kids were teasing me and all the different things, but I ended up sitting next to Gavin and talking. And then I ended up saying to him, listen, you should know something about it. It was very much that scene in Thriller, Michael Jackson, when he's like, I have to tell you something. And then he turns into a werewolf. Like, that's just like in my mind. But I told him, look, I need to tell you something. I'm different. Those are the words that I had as a second grader. Mm-hmm. But he was like, I know, and it's okay. And like, he knew what I was talking about. Wow. I was talking about not being a werewolf or a zombie. Yeah. I was talking about being queer and this very feminine being, and this is what it is. And he was like, it's all good. We were not like the closest of friends, but like he provided a sense of safety for me in a time when I needed it and had no other allies. And so I'll never forget that. But I almost didn't have to come out because it was like obvious, like, come on, people. Like, I was getting teased and beaten up and bullied for being queer, but I just needed to take ownership of it.
I want to talk about another song on your list that relates to your childhood. You chose Mozart's Symphony No. 35 in D major. I think it's also known as the Haffner Symphony. I'm impressed you were listening to this as an 8-year-old.
I was thinking about this the other day. Why in the world? I mean, well, I know why. Music education was mandatory when I was growing up. You had to play some instrument, whichever one you wanted, until you went to college. Everybody wanted to play the trumpet and the saxophone. And so I was like, darling, that is so basic. No offense to anybody that plays a wind instrument.
My husband.
And so I was like, I'm going to join something more refined. I'm going to join the orchestra. Violin was like the most obvious choice for that. So of course I didn't choose it. I just did not want to be basic and predictable. And so I was like, I'm going to choose the viola. The like stepchild of the musical instruments basically has its own clef or musical staff. Like nobody else uses, like understands or reads alto clef. Those were the instruments
standing out even with your musical instrument choice.
Nobody else. I felt so like chic. I was like, darling, oh, you can't read this, darling. I'll read it. I was so into stringed instruments, and my mom, I guess, didn't have a lot of other social support for someone who was like a Black kid who wanted to play classical music. And so she was trying to shower me with as much of it as she could. She bought me a Mozart cassette tape with his like greatest hits or something.
Let's listen to a little bit of Mozart's Symphony No. 35 in D major.
my mom, she took me to see, Amadeus in the theater, which was not for kids.
No, it's really not.
It's very adult. There's orgies, there's sex, it's mostly like a very sexually free kind of thing.
What did that do for you, seeing all of that?
I was like, darling. I was like clutching pearls that I didn't have, but I loved it.
Another thing that strikes me about the film is it's sort of like drenched in opulence. There's all these wigs
well, that's that
and
era.
gowns.
That's that age. Yeah. Like
For-
Rococo, Renaissance era. It's like right in between there. It's powdered wigs, powdered faces, little tiny Cupid bow lips, lavish, life. And that's what I was drawn to for sure. So whenever I would think of classical music and envision it, I would picture people in a big old wig with their frilly lace sleeves and, very fabulous. And the men were dandies as well.
So you chose Lenny Kravitz's Believe. This song, I think, came out in 1993. How come?
I love Lenny Kravitz, and Are You Gonna Go My Way came out at like the perfect time for me. I was a freshman in high school, and we had just had a death in the family, 2 deaths in the family, my grandmother and my uncle. And I didn't know I was going to mourn. I didn't know what that meant for me. Those were the first times I'd ever had a death in the family, or like that was the closest I'd experienced death at that age. And Believe was perfect because it was like a marriage between sort of melancholy vibe, uplifting lyrics that spoke to like humanity a bit. I am you, you are me. If you want it, you have to believe. Basically talking about we're all on this planet together. It was very, like hippie-ish. And the orchestral line, the instrumentation in this, the violins and violas in this song are beautiful.
We got to stand up if we're gonna be free, yeah. If you want it, you got it. You just got to believe. Believe in yourself.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It also makes me think about like transformation, the lyrics, like you're going through darkness, but then you come out a little bit wiser, changed, maybe even a little bit more whole. I think that was speaking
to me. The video shows an embryo and like different stages of like the life cycle of humanity in relationship to the planets and like explosions and stars and like planets becoming solar systems. It's just beautiful.
So this song is sort of like the beginning of high school. And I think I read that high school was around the time that you first dressed in drag, or maybe dressed in drag publicly, I should say. I'm sure there's a lot of firsts, right?
Darling, when Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory came out, darling, I was Miss Violet Beauregard, honey. I turned into a blueberry. Yes, darling. Anyway, so yeah, publicly in drag, we had something called the Homely Court in high school where everybody was encouraged to cross-dress. And I was like, well, you don't got to tell me twice. And I had access to the high school drama club's costume closet and was very close with Miss Cantrell, the drama teacher. And so I was like, darling, I need a gown. I need a fabulous gown to wear. I have to do this. I have to cross-dress. They're forcing us. And I better not say that. Go shut down the school these days. But I went and I got the most ill-fitting outfit. But I was a very classy lady. I dressed like I was in the 40s. And so I got a vintage fur capelet made of cheetah, a black skirt, a white blouse, a little tiny pillbox hat with a black veil, a very bad blonde wig, and fishnet stockings. And so all the cheerleaders, my girlfriends, they dressed as football players, and all the football players dressed as like their grandmother or somebody looking terrible. And I dressed like the madam who is in charge of everyone. And I won.
Winning a drag competition, a sign of things to come. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, I want to recommend a podcast. Hard Knocks is a show about resilience, self-discovery, and finding meaning after chaos, hosted by Amanda Knox. Each week, Amanda sits down with fascinating guests, writers, thinkers, artists, to explore how we learn, grow, and rebuild ourselves after life knocks us down. Amanda brings humor, honesty, and hard-earned perspective to every conversation, drawing on her own experience of being wrongfully convicted and rebuilding her life. Amanda was a guest on Life in 7 Songs in one of our most moving episodes, opening up about how music became a lifeline during her years of wrongful imprisonment. On our show, she spoke candidly about turning pain into wisdom and also about how we're all so much more than our worst moments. If you liked that episode, you'll love her show, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm Jesse Alejandro Cottrell.
And I'm Emily Dreyfus, and this is Pacific Standard Time.
We have stories from all over the state of California, all the big battles that are happening here.
Prop 50,
Housing affordability,
tech,
and immigration.
and we're really excited to bring you the stories about how California is dealing with what it means to be alive in 2025.
Subscribe to Pacific Standard Time, a new weekly show from the San Francisco Standard.
We'll have new episodes every Wednesday starting November 19th, wherever you get your podcasts.
You chose another song from high school. This is Glycerine by Bush. Why this song?
I always loved rock music, and Bush, I guess Bush was like the U2 of my high school era. Like, looks rock and rollish and grungy, but like plays emotionally relevant music. And Glycerine, like the tempo of it was hard rock, and it was all guitar and cello. So I loved this sort of symphonic, it was like a marriage of traditional classical string instruments and guitars, but like electric guitar. And it's played sort of in this legato feel. It's so beautiful.
Don't let the days go by. Could have been easier on you. I couldn't change though I wanted to. Should have been easier.
And if you listen to the very end of it, and this was in style in the 90s, there were these like, what I would say pre-emo rock music that would have these heavy guitars. And then as the song progressed and towards the end of the song, it would transform into an orchestral symphony, which is such a beautiful way for the song to evolve from hard rock into suddenly symphony. And that's how Glycerine ends.
What is Glycerine? Is that what it's talking about, like glycerin?
I think so. I tried to look up throughout the years to like figure out like what this song is about. But glycerin is a naturally occurring humectant chemical, but it is used in makeup artistry to look like beaded sweat, but also it absorbs, I think, 4 to 10 times its weight in water. And so whatever it's on, it causes that thing to absorb that amount of water as well. I really do think it means absorb me, I'm absorbing you, you're absorbing me. That's what I think.
I love that interpretation. And look, you're like a chemistry expert as well.
I'm not, but as a makeup, I was a makeup artist for many years. And so like sometimes in makeup artistry, you have to like, you work with chemicals.
Oh my goodness. You also chose Deborah Cox's song, Nobody's Supposed to Be Here. What time of your life does this bring us to, and what memories does it bring back for you?
Oh, Nobody's Supposed to Be Here came out, I think it came out in the summer between high school and college, or like that year, 98, 99. Well, so there were two versions of the song. The main version of the song with the album version of the song, it was a hit.
How did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here.
And honey, black women were like, that was our call. And so all of my aunts, all the women in my family were like, oh my God, have you heard Deborah Cox? And this was like a breakout hit for her. And I was getting ready to go to college to New York, away from the family. My grandfather, who passed of cancer, rest his soul, I was coping with his mortality. And we had that song on repeat, me and my aunts and my mom and all the women in my family, because after my grandfather died, it was all just women. We were sitting around, just a bunch of ladies sitting in that living room, just listening to this Deborah Cox song, crooning and trying to sing. And it was just felt so good to have like family and sisterhood and like womanhood. And even though I was not fully out as trans at the time, it was still a bunch of women sitting in that room. Then when I left for school, I had to build New Chosen Family. And so I was able to sit around and listen to the remix version of that song while performing it with my sisters in drag, my drag queen sisters. And the song took on a whole new meaning. Same thing, sisterhood, womanhood, here we are. But it was much more celebratory. This was like, we're just gonna set caution to the wind, be free, and put on the heels and hope for the best. Nobody's supposed to be here. Oh!
That was amazing.
I was an 18-year-old on my own in the big city with these other girls who were also fresh out of their hometowns, listening to these Deborah Cox remixes, and it was so liberating.
Can you place me in time at a drag show in the 90s? You talked about the sisterhood doing drag. Like, describe an iconic night.
I mean, we were in New York City, and this was the era of the big nightclub, the like warehouse nightclub where like thousands of people would shove into a converted, probably illegal space. And, you know, New York City was a very different time then in the 90s. It was dangerous, but also like seductive at the same time. When you go out, you didn't know if you were gonna hook up with somebody or get killed. That was honestly the vibe. And so like you were like, we don't know what's gonna happen, but we're gonna have a good time. I happened to work at the Tunnel nightclub, which was an infamous nightclub, one of the big nightclubs that was like the major nightclubs owned by Peter Gation of New York City Clubland fame. It took up an entire New York City block, and it was several stories. We were up in the offices at 4:00 in the morning because that's when the club would close, and then everybody would go to after hours. So we would talk about what we were doing that day and the police raid that happened, or like, oh my gosh, they found a dead body down by the water fountain, you know, things like that. People were using a lot of designer drugs, and so people would like overdose and not know it until they cleared the floor later.
Wow.
But like, I was an entertainer at that point. I was like, I graduated to being one of the showgirls. So like, I was in the dressing room. I don't drink or do drugs or anything, so I was very much the girl who's like in the dressing room the whole time until the show, and then I would go back into the dressing room and wait until we were supposed to get paid.
So you chose another song, a cover of If You Could Read My Mind by Gordon Lightfoot. This is the cover by Stars on 54.
Yes.
So what does this song mean to you?
Oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful. I really do think I was attracted to the song because it was three dance divas whom I'd been listening to and dancing to their music as individual divas on their own right. And when these ladies team up, they sound amazing. And we used to tear that song up on the dance floor and on the stage as the drag queens, because it's hard to find a group number with the dance divas. Like, it's usually just like a solo dolo. But we were like, oh, let's all do If You Could Read My Mind, and like, let's wear matching outfits, and you do the first verse, I'll come out for the second verse, and you do the third, bitch. Like, it was that. I just can't get it back. Boom, 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 boom. If you could read my mind, yeah. Oh my gosh. And then the best thing about this song is it has 3 choruses with different lyrics each time. So each of the ladies would sing a chorus, but then the next chorus and the next verse would be the double, and it would have different lyrics that would add on. So it's like queer Legos. You know, musical Legos that would add on. So first you get the red block, then you get the red and the green block, and then for the end you get the red, green, and the yellow block. And now that was like so cool. Anyway, who cares? Nobody cares. I care.
No, I care. So I'm skipping ahead a lot. And I know we talked about how you have come out in many different times in many different ways. That's like a process. But you obviously told your story to a huger audience, millions of people all at once, really, when you became the first openly trans woman to compete on RuPaul's Drag Race in 2017. What was that kind of immediate visibility like for you?
It was like being shot out of a cannon. Now, I've never been shot out of a cannon, but I might as well have been. Ultimately, you are instantly known, and there's a demand to go to all of the gay bars and nightclubs and things like that. I think a lot of the alumni from RuPaul's Drag Race experienced something similar, but even more so, it really did draw a lot of attention to me because as an out trans woman, the narrative around my participation was a little bit different. A lot of drag entertainers are talking about trans issues, whether they're trans or not. But back then, that wasn't happening. And so I was given lots of space to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about. At the time, I talked, which is still important to me, was the very high murder rate against trans women, specifically trans women of color. And I wasn't hearing people talking about those things. For once, when I would get interviewed by like the New Yorker or People Magazine or what have you for doing Drag Race, they were obliged to talk about like what's it like for a trans woman these days as well.
What would you say to trans kids or parents of trans kids, or what do you say to them today, right now?
I'd say to the parents, thank you so much for recognizing your child and allowing your love and support for them to overrule the rumors that you hear on Twitter and on the internet and things like that. Stuff by political people who've never met a trans person. And to the kids who are those trans young folks, just know that you are already who you're meant to be, and you will evolve and bloom in accordance with that. And that is under your control. And yes, they can take away access to information. Yes, they can take away access to some of the tools that you may use to medically transition later. And yes, I'm a person who fears losing my health insurance and fears not having access to those things. But I can also tell you that, like, we as trans people come from a line of transcestors who they were able to get what they needed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when they didn't have health insurance. We got it done. So you're going to get it done. You will be just fine. And you, as a queer person, especially as a trans person who's had to face this type of adversity and then grow from that, are now equipped to do way more than the people who have been oppressing you. Every single ounce of our being is supposed to be lived through, not confined and ashamed and contorted the way that they want you to go back in the closet. And if you can overcome that, you can overcome anything.
Your last song is Ariana Grande's No Tears Left to Cry. Why'd you choose it?
This was a time when I was in between my relationship, which was definitely one of the best relationships that I'd ever been in up to that time. Before that, I was with partners who were either not that experienced in dating a trans person or way too experienced in dating a trans person, and really didn't do a lot of like uplifting of wanting to connect with like who I am. And certainly didn't want to would not want to meet me in public. And
really?
Honey,
my
please.
Goodness.
That is a norm. A lot of these guys, I guess you could say, carry a sense of shame and are stigmatized, but I was dating somebody who was like, that's ridiculous. Take my hand. We're going to go down to the place, whatever. You know, he introduced me to his friends. He introduced me to his family. And that just felt great. Like it felt like acceptance. And that was exactly what I needed at that moment in time, was someone who could just see me for me and would just be like, let's go. I'm with it. And it was a bit of a heartbreaking breakup. We broke up and it was kind of like, are we, aren't we, are we, aren't we kind of thing for a while. And this song was really popular at the time. And I had to go on, I was acting in a play that was like sort of a musical comedy at the time. And I had to go on and be like, hey, everything's great. But we were in the midst of a breakup and I would sit alone in my dressing room and cry. And so when this song came out, it was very empowering.
When you look at the 7 songs you've sent over, and now that we've sort of had this conversation, what story are you telling?
You know, I do think there is a theme of transformation, personal growth and transformation, like lyrically, like literally, or musically in the way that the songs sound one way in the beginning but sound another way in the end, or what they do for me, bringing me to a new space of uplifting me, allowing me to process, the family deaths and things like that, allowing me to process those feelings. And so I subconsciously have transformed all the sad music and sad times and sad memories. I've converted those into joyous things. And so I think it's a story of transformation.
Peppermint, thank you so, so much.
My pleasure.
Life in 7 Songs is a production from the San Francisco Standard. Our senior producer is Jasmine Morris. Our producers are Michelle Lance, who also mixes the show, and Tessa Kramer. Our theme music is by Kate Davis and Zubin Hensler. Jess Hutchison created our show art. Our music consultant is Sarah Tembekshian. Executive producers are Griffin Gaffney, John Steinberg, and me. As always, you can find this guest's full playlist at sf.news/Spotify. I'm Sophie Behrman. Thanks for listening. And if you liked this episode, subscribe so you can listen to more like it. See you next time.